The woman of Revelation is older than Christianity. In the Bible's final fiery book, a mysterious woman appears, clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. For 2,000 years, people have argued over who she is. Is she the Virgin Mary, the nation of Israel, the Christian church itself? Each interpretation seems to hold a piece of the puzzle. But what if her story is far, far older than Christianity? What if this heavenly queen is an echo of ancient goddesses worshipped for thousands of years before the Bible was ever written? In this video, we're going to uncover some surprising connections that link the woman of Revelation to a lost world of powerful female deities. We'll explore the theory that a first-century apocalyptic vision seems to borrow its most powerful imagery from the myths of so-called pagan goddesses. This isn't a story about one religion just replacing another. It's a story about how ancient ideas can survive, transform, and reappear in the most unexpected places. Get ready to see the Book of Revelation in a whole new light. Section 1. The Mystery of the Celestial Queen. The 12th chapter of Revelation opens with a vision of cosmic grandeur and conflict. A great sign appears in heaven, a radiant, celestial woman about to give birth, but she's not alone. Another sign appears, a huge, fiery red dragon with 7 heads, waiting to devour her child the moment it's born. The child, who is destined to rule all nations, is saved and caught up to God and to his throne, while the woman escapes into the wilderness, where she is kept safe. This powerful story is a cornerstone of Christian theology. Most interpretations identify the woman as a symbol of God's people, either Israel, the mother of the Messiah, or the church, the community of believers. The child is almost universally seen as Christ, and the dragon is explicitly identified as Satan. This reading makes perfect sense inside a Christian framework. But when we zoom out, beyond the borders of one tradition, a startling pattern emerges. The story of a divine mother, a miraculous child, and a serpent-like monster trying to kill them isn't unique. In fact, it's a theme that appears in cultures across the ancient world, long before the Apostle John ever put pen to papyrus. Could the author of Revelation have been using a familiar mythological template to tell his own theological story? To find the answer, let's first travel back to the myths of ancient Greece. Section 2. The Dragon's Pursuit. Revelation and the Myth of Leto. One of the most striking parallels to the drama in Revelation 12 comes from the Greek myth of Leto, the mother of the twin gods Apollo and Artemis. As the story goes, Leto became pregnant by Zeus, king of the gods. When Zeus's jealous wife Hera found out, she was furious. She declared that Leto couldn't give birth on any land under the sun and sent a monstrous serpent, the Python, to hunt her down. The parallels are pretty hard to ignore. A divine mother, pregnant with a child of cosmic importance, is hunted by a monstrous serpent sent by a jealous celestial power. Leto, like the woman of Revelation, is forced to flee, desperately looking for a safe place. She eventually finds refuge on the floating island of Delos and gives birth to Apollo, a god associated with light and prophecy. Just as the woman's child is destined to rule, Apollo becomes one of the most important gods in the Greek pantheon, and in a final, resonant echo. What's the first big thing the adult Apollo does? He goes to Delphi, finds the same python that hunted his mother, and kills it, claiming the sacred site for himself. The core elements, the persecuted mother, the threatened divine child, and the serpentine enemy, line up remarkably well with what we read in Revelation. The conflict between the woman and the dragon isn't just a theological allegory. It's a story structure, a narrative archetype that would have been instantly recognizable to people in the Greco-Roman world. It's a scholarly theory that the author of Revelation might be taking a well-known pagan myth and recasting it, as if to say, "You know that story about Apollo and the python? Here's the true version. The child isn't Apollo, it's Christ. The serpent isn't Python, it's Satan himself." Section 3. The Mother and Child. Echoes of Egypt's Isis and Horus. This theme of the divine mother and child isn't just in Greece. Perhaps its most famous and influential version comes from even further back, in ancient Egypt, with the goddess Isis and her son, Horus. Isis was one of the most beloved deities in the ancient world, and her worship spread across the entire Roman Empire. The story of Isis is one of incredible devotion. After her husband, Osiris, was murdered by his jealous brother, Set, Isis gathered his body and used her magic to bring him back to life just long enough to conceive a son, Horus. As the mother of Horus, the rightful heir and embodiment of kingship, Isis was often called the Mother of God. She was a fierce protector, hiding Horus from Set in the swamps of the Nile Delta. It's the art of Isis and Horus where the connections become really compelling. For thousands of years, the classic image in Egyptian art was the seated Isis, nursing the infant Horus on her lap. She was often shown with a headdress featuring a sun disk, linking her to the heavens. As Christianity spread, this image of the divine mother and child was everywhere. The now iconic artistic motif of the Madonna and child is so visually similar to the ancient depictions of Isis and Horus that many scholars believe it's a direct continuation or inspiration of the Egyptian tradition, though this is a subject of scholarly debate. So when the woman of Revelation appears, a heavenly mother giving birth to a divine son who is threatened by a force of evil, she's stepping into a role that, in some ways, had been played by Isis for millennia. The original audience of Revelation would have been familiar with Isis, a goddess often called Queen of Heaven, known for her power as a protective, divine mother. Here again, the biblical text seems to be engaging in a kind of mythological dialogue, presenting its own version of the divine mother and savior son. Section 4. The Queen of Heaven and her starry crown. The very first description of the woman of Revelation is her celestial glory. Clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. This heavenly imagery might be the biggest clue, linking her to a whole family of ancient goddesses who held the title Queen of Heaven. Now, Queen of Heaven wasn't a title embraced in mainstream Jewish tradition. In fact, it's mentioned in the Old Testament book of Jeremiah, where the prophet condemns the Israelites for worshiping a foreign goddess by that name. But who was she? In the ancient Near East, the title Queen of Heaven was most famously held by the Mesopotamian goddess Inanna, later known as Ishtar. Inanna was the goddess of love, war, and political power, and she was identified with the planet Venus. Ancient hymns praise her as a radiant light in the heavens. Her myths, like the descent of Inanna, tell of her journey to the underworld, where she is stripped of her power and ultimately resurrected, a cycle mirroring the movements of Venus. She was a figure of immense cosmic power, holding dominion over heaven and earth. This tradition of a powerful, celestial goddess wasn't limited to Mesopotamia. The Syrian goddess Atargotis and the Greek Artemis were also depicted with solar, lunar, and stellar symbols. Iconography of a female figure adorned with celestial bodies is a hallmark of goddess worship across the ancient Mediterranean, but it is strikingly rare in Jewish tradition before Revelation. So when John describes a woman crowned with 12 stars, robed in the sun, and standing on the moon, he's using the specific visual language often associated with pagan goddess veneration. He's painting a picture of a cosmic queen. While Christian interpretation connects the 12 stars to the 12 tribes of Israel or the 12 apostles, the broader historical context suggests he is giving his symbolic figure the highest attributes of the most powerful female deities known to his world. He seems to be co-opting the glory of Ishtar, Isis, and Artemis, and placing it on the mother of the Messiah, creating an image that declares his Queen of Heaven as the victor in a cosmic war of myths. Conclusion: the enduring archetype. So who is the woman of Revelation? Mary, Israel, the Church? The answer from a theological perspective is likely all of the above. But from a comparative mythology standpoint, she's also something more. She can be seen as an incarnation of an ancient and powerful archetype, the divine feminine. From the Greek myth of Leto fleeing the serpent Python, to the Egyptian tale of Isis protecting her son Horus from the evil Set, to the Mesopotamian hymns praising Inanna Ishtar as the Queen of Heaven, the core elements are there: a divine mother, a miraculous child, a cosmic enemy, and a promise of victory. These weren't just stories. They were attempts to make sense of the world, to describe the eternal battle between creation and destruction, order and chaos. The author of Revelation, living in a world saturated with these myths, didn't write in a vacuum. It's arguable that he drew upon these deeply embedded cultural narratives to communicate his own theological message with incredible power. He used the familiar language of goddess myths to proclaim the triumph of his God. In doing so, he ensured that the shadow of these ancient goddesses would live on, preserved forever in the final pages of the Christian Bible. The story of the woman of Revelation reveals a profound truth about human spirituality. Our ideas of the divine evolve, borrow, and transform over time. The mysterious woman crowned with stars isn't just a Christian symbol. She's a testament to the enduring power of the divine feminine, an archetype that has been worshipped, suppressed, and rediscovered for millennia, echoing a story that is, in many ways, far older than Christianity itself. If you found this exploration into the hidden roots of biblical stories fascinating, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history and mythology. We want to know your thoughts. What other biblical stories do you think have ancient roots? Let us know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.